Hey, greetings everybody. Keith here. Hoping everybody's having a good day, enjoying life, living life, loving life. We're back at it, and I'm still not feeling all the greatest, so I don't know how long I'm going to take it today, but we're going to keep doing these streams until I finish it, whether it be today, tomorrow, Monday, whatever. But if you see in the comments section, there's a note, a comment in the chat. The Coast Guard is the lead federal maritime law agency and the only agency with both the authority and capability to enforce national and international law on the high seas, outer continental shelf, and inward from the exclusive economic zone to the inland waters. I'm going to read that again. The Coast Guard is the lead federal maritime law enforcement agency and the only agency with both the authority and capability to enforce national and international law on the high seas, outer continental shelf, and then inward. So they can't go beyond the continental shelf, but they can go inward, all the inland waters of the from and inward from the exclusive economic zone. Again, that's maritime, which is the economic zone. That zone is a foreign trade zone. And this is the zone that no person shall reside in except federal, state, or municipal officers or agents whose resident presence is deemed necessary by the board. And that board is the Secretary of Commerce as the executive chair and the Secretary of Treasury. So everything we're doing with the law enforcement as it relates to the Admiralty Maritime, when you walk into those courts and you see that Maritime Admiralty flag, it's a military contract. You have to be contracted with a military entity of some sort. That is, in fact, what the United States is. See, there is no location of the United States as a physical boundary, like I said before. There is no birth registry in the United States. It's not a place where somebody is born. It's a presupposition that you're a citizen, which is a military position, a military arrangement. And even as a civilian, even though you're not in the active forces, you're still within the Maritime Admiralty jurisdiction and conducting military contracts. It's called fiat. So today we're going to continue on. And we've got the Department of Defense issuance program processes. Let me see here. The Department of Defense issuances program processes the documents that establish and implement Department of Defense policy. Now that implement is in relations to 48 CFR 52.212-5, again, contract terms and conditions required to implement statutes or executive orders - commercial items, called DoD issuances, and the clerk is the one that issues and therefore is a clerk in the military under a commission known as the county commissioner. Issuance types include instructions, directives, manuals, directive type memorandums, and administrative instructions. Again, That administrative court with that Admiralty Maritime flag is a military courtroom under administrative instructions from the Department of Defense. So let's take a look at it. And before we get into it, I want to remind everybody, please hit that like, share, and subscribe button. And there's PayPal links down in the chat in the details section for anybody that wants to share some love. And the panel link is down there for anybody that wants to share some love as well. Let me make sure that gets down there. Copy. Okay. So there's the panel link. And present. Washington Headquarters Service. So if it's Department of Defense Directive Division, why is it not United States? Why is this not United States? Instead, it says Washington Headquarters Services. So let's read into it. Welcome to the Directives Division homepage. DoD Directive Divisions administers and operates. Remember 32 CFR 1602.4? Selective Service is responsible for all administration and operations of the, let me get that and pull that up just to make sure I'm saying it precisely. Area office, and it says the Selective Service Office, which is responsible for all administrative and operational support for the one or more local boards within its jurisdiction. So the County Board of Commissioners or the County Board of Directors, one of the others, usually it's County Board of Directors, but they have a county commissioner, and that county commissioner appoints a clerk to issue the documentation that is administered by the administrative law judge or ordered by the administrative law judge. And again, it's in regards to the Postal Service contracts. I'll remind you once again, the Judicial Officer Department is a neutral and independent forum within the United States Postal Service, comprising of the judicial officer, the clerk, the administrative law judge, that judge, and the Postal Service Board of Contract Appeals. Now, it's the Postal Service which allows you to post things in their record. Again, all post offices are inland marine installations. That's direct from the Marine Corps headquarters. And again, Navy propagating the Coast Guard and the Marine Corps. Now, the Coast Guard, as we read earlier, is the maritime. And then, of course, the Marines are the on land. So we have to realize everything we're doing is in a military capacity, and we're being treated as militants. Combatant belligerents. It's all military words. It's all military grammar. And that's what they're using, is a military forum. If you're not in the military, quit going to them courts and pleading and begging for them to let you go. You're not involved. You're not associated with them. In fact, in truth, the only facts in the record is that which extend from the enumeration at birth, which is again applicable to Department of Defense. The next one I have is Department of Defense Financial Management Regulation. Budget execution. Don't know what happened there. Budget execution. Availability and use of budgetary resources. Remember, we spoke yesterday about the resourcing. See, they have to go to you as a resource. They're taking the sources that you use and gathering them up from you. And that source is the data elements. And then they get to resource them. Under Secretary of Defense, Comptroller. Archived. Explanation of change, revision. Purpose. It tells you the paragraphs. This one here says clarified exempt from apportionment transfer only accounts. Now, a transfer is a transfer of the assets or the source. And then the resourcing is the transfer where they get to use that source as theirs. This is what happens when mom signs that informant document at the hospital, a military hospital known as a foundling hospital, where the military is required to look after and care for infants. That's why there's an infant ward. Added reference to proceeds from donations, contributions, and sales of assets for replacement in reference to reimbursable authority. Added reference to proceeds from donations, contributions, and sales of assets for replacement. So far, as an informant, mom donated or contributed, but did not sell for replacement. That signature, which is the asset. Added a schedule for quarterly apportionment updates, added explanation of potential timing differences, update preparation of apportionment and reapportionment roles and responsibilities, updated the footnote requirements to match OMB updated language. Why would they update the footnote requirements to match OMB updated language? Because OMB, Office of Management and Budget, updated the language, and now the defense has to update their language to match. Added requirement for lines split for amounts automatically apportioned. Updated file naming convention. And again, this is a 300-page document. And under legal requirement, apportionment is part of the government-wide system for administrative control of funds. Government-wide system for administrative control of funds. Legal requirement for apportionment is found in Title 31 of United States Code, USC, at sections 1512 and 1513. Unless expressly exempted or automatically apportioned by OMB, all DoD appropriated, collected, and recovered resources require OMB approval through the apportionment reapportion process before they are available for distribution and legal obligation. Read that again. Unless expressly exempted or automatically apportioned by OMB. This is the informant document that automatically apportions by the OMB. All DoD appropriated, collected, and recovered resources require OMB approval through the apportionment reapportionment process before they are available for distribution and legal obligation. So if you look at the back of the, or on the $1 bill, you're going to see a number preceded by a letter. That letter and then 8 numbers. That letter will refer A through L, one of the Federal Reserve branches. And then the numbers are the numbers on the back of somebody's Social Security card. So once somebody is born and that Social Security number is assigned, there's an apportionment. A legal obligation is established, and they can distribute Federal Reserve notes into the system based on that enumeration. So let's take a look at 31 USC 1512. Apportionment and reserves. This is why we talk about the National Guard reserves. That's why I'm contacting the state chaplain to get this stuff taken care of. Nobody else that I've spoken to under this administrative process seems to understand what they're supposed to be administrating and how it comes to be apportioned and reapportioned and distributed. Like I said, a piece of paper is money, is fiat. The system we have here is a military fiat system. So everything is distributed by the military, everything. And again, notice it did not say United States, it said Washington. Except as provided in this subchapter, an appropriation available for obligation for a definite period shall be apportioned to prevent obligation or expenditure at a rate that would indicate a necessity for a deficiency or supplemental appropriation for the period. In other words, they already have it budgeted out, like many people have said and many people have heard, that there's a certain amount that's apportioned when you're born that's put into the system that's your value. They estimate and budget according to the average lifespan, the average income, and all of this, what your value is worth in that fiat system. How much they're willing to apportion for your lifetime to distribute to you, as if though you're dependent upon that distribution. What did God distribute? Aren't we supposed to pay tribute to God? So what is a distribution? Think about that. An apportionment or reapportionment shall be reviewed at least 4 times a year by the official designated in section 1513 of this title to make apportionments. 4 times a year. That sounds like quarterly. That sounds like the income that's paid in or reported through the system, wherein they give you quarterly insurance credits through Social Security and Federal Insurance Contributions Act. Contributions. So you have tribution, tribute, distribution, distribute, and contributions, contribute, with tribute. So if you're paying contributions to the military system, that's with tribute to the military system. So if you're going to give tribute to the military system as an equal station in life, then you give them the tribute of God. You coin your words or you purse your lips. You don't speak in a military style. The next one I've got, oops, we got to do 1513, don't we? Let's go to 1513. Officials controlling apportionments. The official having administrative control of an apportionment available to the legislative branch, the judicial branch, and the United States International Trade Commission or the District of Columbia, Washington, or the District of Columbia government that is required to be apportioned under Section 1512 of this title. Now, if it's the Washington, D.C., District of Columbia, and it's District of Columbia government, then what happened to the United States government? Remember, District of Columbia has no statehood. So who the fuck are they to apportion anything and say, I am legally obligated for anything under a military venue, when they have no record whatsoever that I've ever served in the military, though I did attempt. I did attempt, but I wasn't found to be suitable. I wasn't found to be suitable for service in the military. So let's take a look at that. Let's look again. 5 USC suitability. It's 731. Well, let's no. Five U.S. Code, Chapter 73, Suitability, Security, and Conduct. And you notice you got regulation of conduct, employment limitations, political activities, because those are political subdivisions, foreign gifts and decorations. That foreign gift, that was the conference of a nationality, the conference of a United States nationality, wherein a United States citizen was gifted. Again, equity does not complete an imperfect gift. Misconduct, drug abuse, alcohol abuse, and alcoholism. Mandatory removal from employment of convicted law enforcement officers. Mandatory removal from employment of convicted law enforcement officers. Is this telling you that law enforcement is part of the military? It should. So is the firefighters. The firefighters and police are all part of the military enforcement. Those are the protectors of the needful places and buildings along those postal roads, regulated by Congress to lay and collect taxes, duties, imposts, and excises. That's what they're required to protect. They're not required to protect the people, as the case law has shown. They're required to protect the needful places and buildings and the documents therein. They're required to protect the beneficiary, which is the documentation. That's the only purpose of the United States, is to placate that somehow the government or the District of Columbia government has any authority. Again, if all the states ceded their jurisdiction to the United States, and the United States is located in Washington, D.C., and Washington, D.C. has no statehood, then how the fuck do any of them pose to have any kind of sovereignty or to be acting in any kind of sovereignty when they don't mention the word God anywhere? Pathetic. So let's take a look at the CFR. This is 25 CFR 731.202, criteria for making suitability determinations. General, Office of Personnel Management. Again, that's why it's in 5 CFR, 5 USC. It's personnel, or an agency to which the OPM has delegated authority, must base its suitability determinations on the presence or absence of one or more of the specific factors. Charges. So the factors of the case are not correct. The only place they can charge you with any of these commercial things is in a military forum, and you must be in that military forum. So when this police, like I said, are supposed to be telling on each other, you're not part of that military service. In paragraph B of this section, and it says specific factors in determining whether a person is suitable for federal employment. Remember, we spoke about federal employment or federal employees or contractors. Only the following factors will be considered a basis for finding a person unsuitable and taking a suitability action. This is what's called filing a suit. You're suing somebody. It's an issue. Misconduct or negligence in employment. Criminal or dishonest conduct. Now, I spoke to somebody earlier in regards to this. The criminal or dishonest conduct in these military forums is the Article 1 contract courts. That's why they do all of their filing suits in those administrative courts. Article 1 courts for Title 4D contracting under Social Security. However, when we speak of criminal and dishonest conduct, we're talking about commandments. Thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife, thou shalt not be false witness against your brother. Stealing one of the children of the brethren of Israel and making merchandise of them is a death sentence. I don't take this stuff lightly anymore, folks, and I wish you wouldn't either. I wish you people would quit placating to the lies. And like I've said many times, I'm giving you this information. If you're watching now, you now have a duty of knowledge to spread this knowledge and not let the lies placate themselves anymore. And I don't understand why you're not fucking doing it. Material, intentional false statement or deception or fraud in examination or appointment. Did they examine that baby when it was born? Do these people even know they're part of the military? Working in a military hospital? Issuing military documentation? Do you know it? You do now. I'm telling you. And if you think it's not true, then you have to find a way to dismiss all of this shit that I've been putting out here for you, that they wrote up, that tells you what's going on. And I can't dismiss it. I have to agree with it. I'm not suitable. That was made that determination was made shortly after I turned 18 and went down to Des Moines for the physical examination. And they said I'm not suitable. That is on it for the record. And yet somehow some administrators all the way through my life felt that I was suitable, so they let people file suits against me. Refusal to furnish testimony as required by 5.4 of this chapter. Information and testimony. Mom was an informant, and they converted the information without testimony, and nobody's testified to it yet. Hallelujah for my Father in God in heaven. He is my Father. So fuck you and your paternity papers. Fuck you and your marriage license. Fuck you and your Title 4D contracts. Fuck you and the Social Security Administration. When required by the office, the Merit Systems Protection Board. I've spoken on merits before. Merits, spiritual credits. So they want to update the language and get rid of that term for their military system where they issue merits and demerits. You know, all of them shiny little badges, those are called merits. You know, when you're a Boy Scout, they call them merit badges. You think the Boy Scouts isn't part of a military regime? I'll tell you different. I grew up a Boy Scout, not even realizing it until here these last 7 years that Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, Brownies, Webelos, all of those, they're military regimes, just like the public education system, training children up to be military servers. Or the special counsel of the Merit System Protection Board, or by authorized representatives of these bodies. Who are the authorized representatives of those bodies? Those are the attorneys. The attorney is a military capacity. Yes, it's a military capacity. Agency shall make available to them or to their authorized representatives, employees to testify in regard to matters inquired of under the civil service laws. So you are supposed to be an employee of the military, even if you're in the civilian workforce. You're just not an active member in the military. You're still an employee on the civil side. You're not a military combatant. You placate to the civil side doing the paperwork. Rules and regulations and records pertaining to these matters. Every last one of those records is a matter of national security. That's why they keep them in their drawers, their bureaus. All such employees and all applicants or eligibles for positions covered by these rules shall give to the office, the Merit Systems Protection Board, the special counsel, or to their authorized representative all information, testimony, documents, and material in regard to the above matters. So why would you go to the authorized representative? Why would you go to a special counsel? Why not go to the Merit Systems Protection Board and present your merits above even the commanding general? Because he's putting on the armor of man. I will walk in naked in the armor of God. I don't know that you guys understand the importance of this, and I hope you get it someday. The disclosure of which is not otherwise prohibited by law or regulation. I'm not going to expose anything but their record that's already in the public that tells us what we're supposed to be doing when they're doing the things they're doing against us. See, if you have no requirement to protect us, then why are you affronting us? Why are you assaulting us? Why are you putting in false documentation, demanding of people that don't know any better to put in false documentation? Why are you not the ones protecting the record, making sure that it is a true record? Instead, you're out there running around like little heathens, gathering up all the information on every individual you can to put into that record. You're the one that's supposed to have the merits to make sure that that record is correct. It's your record, not mine. It's pathetic. Truly pathetic. And it's just simple reading. And when you read this stuff and you see the plain writing in it, and you think you know it, and you don't do your research on it to find out, to make sure you know what you're talking about, or make sure you know what you're reading. That's why you get confused, because you don't double check yourself. You think your ego already knows what that word means, and not once have you ever checked out the etymology. Not once have you ever gone back and reaffirmed the concise English structure that you're supposed to be using. Laziness, complacency, whatever it is, I don't care. You're full-grown adults. You really need to start acting like it. We already read that one. National Defense subtitle, Department of Defense Office of Secretary of Defense purpose. Let's look at 31 USC 1516, just a little bit beyond that 1513. Wherein it talks about exemptions. (31 U.S. Code 1516) exemptions. An official designated in 1513 of this title, that's the administrative law judge, to make apportionments may exempt from apportionment a trust fund or working fund if an expenditure from the fund has no significant effect on the financial operations of the United States government. Financial operations of the United States government? Weren't we talking about the District of Columbia government? See, there are things that need to be corrected or noticed as inconsistent, and therefore creates an impossibility, because you can't serve two masters. You cannot serve the District of Columbia government and the United States government, can you? Even in your military uniform, you either serve one or the other, right? So what's the difference? The United States is the trustee. A working capital fund or a revolving fund established for intra-governmental operations. Intra-governmental operations. Is it interstate commerce or intrastate commerce? See where we're going? Receipts from industrial and power operations available under law. Receipts from industrial and power. That sounds like your utility bill is exempt. Made specifically for interest on or retirement of the public debt. Can you retire a public debt that is consistently ongoing? So doesn't that retirement of a public debt, isn't that the retirement of the person that belongs to yourself? See, my companion and I are both retired. I've been retired for 7 years. I retired when I was 50 years old. You don't have to have a retirement fund to retire. You can still live in this system. Payment of claims, judgments, refunds, and drawbacks. Drawbacks. Items the president decides are of a confidential nature. Payment under a law requiring payment of the total amount of the appropriation to a designated payee. The designated payee is the state where you were born within that Federal Reserve District. Grants to the states under Social Security Act. It wasn't a grant to you. It's never a grant to you, yourself. When you sign up for SS5, the SS5, the Social Security Administration insurance programs, to take money out of your check for a retirement plan when you get retired, is all false. You're being indoctrinated into a military forum to believe that that military forum is the one that's going to protect and provide you in this world. I don't need a military on a peaceful land. There hasn't been a war here on the American lands for a long time. I've never been to war with one of my neighbors. I've never caused war. I've never been the cause of somebody else to war against me. So let's look at the drawback. Goodness gracious, look at that. 19 U.S. Code 1313. 19 U.S. Code. That's customs code. That's where the documentation was entered through the immigration process, was through the customs. And this is drawback and refunds. Articles made from imported merchandise. Articles made from imported merchandise upon the exportation or destruction under customs supervision of articles manufactured or produced in the United States with the use of imported merchandise. The enumeration at birth is a presumed imported merchandise where they now produce a article for eventual entrance into the National Archives that a United States citizen has been conferred, has been gifted. So they're supposed to receive credit in exchange for the gift. So what they do is they take the credit without telling you that you are the true creditor, provided that those articles have not been used prior to such exportation or destruction. An amount calculated pursuant to regulations prescribed by the Secretary of the Treasury, which we just read, the apportionment, under Section I shall be refunded as drawback. Shall be refunded as drawback. Except that duty shall not be so refunded upon the exportation or destruction of flour or byproducts produced from imported wheat. I think that has something to do with the separation of the wheat and the chaff. See, they're not up to separating the wheat from the chaff. Are you? Where two or more products result from the manipulation of imported merchandise, the drawback shall be distributed to the several products in accordance with their relative values at the time of separation. The enumeration at birth created a separation of me and my mother, and we're joined back. That's the drawback. You got to draw everything back to the original point. to the relative, the next of kin. That's what's relative. If imported duty-paid merchandise or merchandise classified under the same 8-digit HTS subheading number as such imported merchandise is used in manufacture or production of articles within a period not to exceed 5 years from the date of importation of such imported merchandise. When do you send your kids to school? When do you send your kids to school? Right about 5 years after they're apportioned, but you register them in school before they go to school, don't you? Therefore, there's a registration on file. Oops. Requirements relating to transfer of merchandise. Drawbacks shall be allowed under paragraph 1 with respect to an article manufactured or produced using imported merchandise or other merchandise classified under the same 8-digit HTS subheading. That's harmonized tariff system. Number as such imported merchandise only if the manufacturer or producer of the article received such imported merchandise or such other merchandise directly or indirectly from the importer. This is the process of getting that birth certificate and the certificate of live birth. With respect to an article manufactured or produced using imported merchandise or other merchandise classified number or classifiable under the same 8-digit HTS subheading number, such as imported merchandise only if the manufacturer or producer, mom was the producer, she was a co-creator with her spouse, and then I'm the one that placed all the facts in the record. I'm the manufacturer of those records. All of those records are misidentifications, and your whole life is nothing but a big trip. No, I don't want to participate in your survey. DHS Traveler Redress Inquiry Program. Redress the government for grievance of misidentification. Department of Homeland Security Traveler Redress Inquiry Program. Just like the federal acquisitions regulations, in order for them to acquire things, they have to first inquire as to where they can get them. Before they can inquire as to where they can get the things, they must be required. There is no such requirement. Contracts are optional. So the only thing that they can actually get from the American people by requirement is through manufacture and production of certain merchandise, and they have to pay them for it. The Department of Homeland Security Redress Program is a single point of contact for individuals who have had difficulties during travel screenings at transportation hubs. At transportation hubs, such as airports or U.S. borders. Transportation hub is the Department of Motor Vehicles wherein you go get that driver license. That is a transportation hub regulated by the Department of Transportation. Watch list issues, screening problems at ports of entry. Situations where travelers believe they have been unfairly or incorrectly delayed, denied boarding, or identified for additional screening at our nation's transportation hubs. In October 2023, geez, we're just into October 2023, 2 weeks now. DHS Trip launched a new multilingual support tool for the Spanish-speaking community. Travelers may now view the application and resources in Spanish by toggling their preferred language at the top of the website. Should I use DHS Trip? People who have been denied or delayed airline boarding have been denied or delayed entry into or exit from the U.S. at a port of entry or border crossing, or have been repeatedly referred to additional secondary screening, can file an inquiry to seek redress. Notice it says nothing about a passport here. It says nothing about having to have a passport. People, not persons, people who have been denied or delayed airline boarding have been denied or delayed entry into or exit from the U.S. at a port of entry or border crossing, or have been repeatedly referred to additional secondary screening, can file an inquiry to seek redress. So, who are the contracting parties? At ports of entry and exit, you have an exit from one side that enters into another side. So you have the US on this side and Canadian on this side. Those are the two contracting parties. Okay. There's a contract. They're in trust. They are public servants of the public trust in contract under that public trust. And that public trust is the Global Postal Trust Services, not the United States Trust here, not the District of Columbia Trust, not any other trust. It's a Global Postal Trust Service. That Global Postal Trust I don't know why I did that. Let me see here. There we go. This is the IRS. Individual Master File, IMF. The individual master file. So when you're born and it creates that state's vital statistic jurisdiction exclusive to the individual, the assignment of a social security number is in fact a taxpayer identification number. And so what happens at the enumeration at birth and the assignment of a social security number to a United States citizen known as Keith Little is a taxpayer. If you do not want to pay taxes, then you don't take upon the gift of the United States citizen Keith Little as conferred by a nationality. You go out amongst the world in the full armor of God and you present his gifts. Had I known this when I was younger, I'd be a much better man for it today. It's sad that people grow up to my age before they realize this stuff. Placating that they're doing such a wonderful job, and they're going to provide a good future for the next generation. I see the next generation having to take on more than I am. I see the next generations having to fight devious wars on paper and out there in the real world. I see such a large, major portion of society, of populations all around the world, not just here in the United States or on the American soil or whatever. However you want to placate it, it's his world. It's his wife. It's our Mother Earth, and he's our Father in heaven. And I don't see why people don't use that to help point out the blasphemy and the fallacy of of all these things that are going on. Notice it says campus document services. It's because you entered that child into a public education registration into a campus, an educational campus that fails every last one of us and doesn't tell us about the campus document services and the IMF individual master file account numbers and how they're to be used. We knew it took all of this, then maybe we might placate to a simpler life and not try to manage it all of our lives, not knowing what we're doing, and find out at 50 years of age, no wonder we're fucked up. Everybody around us believes the police are our authority. The police are not your authority. The police have no responsibility, no obligation, no duty to protect you as an adult. Even as a military officer, they're only supposed to protect the women and children. Yet I see them pulling over women just as much as men. And their true obligation is to protect the record for its historical value. That's the demon, history. Everybody wants to live on the past and go by the past records because they can't live in the now and use their own observations for their own discernment. Yeah, Gem Finder. You know, I've been doing this 7 years. 7 years I've been putting this out. 7 years I've been screaming in every venue. And it seems the only venue I have any kind of observations in is Facebook. I've gone through and deleted 3,000 people off my Facebook friends twice now in 7 years. And it goes right back up to 5,000. I'm almost up to 5,000 again. They want to hear it on Facebook. They want to see it on Facebook. But ain't many of them doing anything about it. And when I bring it to YouTube, got almost 3,000 subscribers and I get 15 viewers. It's because everybody else likes the drama. There's very few of us that realize the importance of the knowledge. And there's even less that even realize that even seek it. So I appreciate you coming. I appreciate your sharing. But like I said earlier, I'm not feeling too great again yet today, so I'm going to cut it short. I will be back later, just depending on how well I feel when I come. But I had the scan the other day, and that radioactive iodine has got me down a little bit. I got to get some more fluid in me, get that flushed out. So I'm going to go do some drinking and relaxing for a little bit, and I'll be back later. Like I said, I don't know what time. And again, I appreciate everybody's support. So please hit that like, share, and subscribe button. There are PayPal links down in the details section for anybody who wants to share some love. And we'll see everybody later. Meantime, remember, I love you. I don't give a rat's ass whether you love me back or not. So may God bless you. Have a good day, and we'll see you next time. Bye now.